This week's Parsha is Chayei Sarah. What is Chayei Sarah? Sarah lived. The Parsha begins with Sarah's lifetime. But this is actually where Sarah dies. In the Perek 23, Kaf Gimel, Pasuk Aleph, verse 1, it says, Vaychu Chayei Sarah me'ah shana ve'esrim shana ve'shava shanim shenei Chayei Sarah. Sarah's lifetime was 100 years, and 20 years, and 7 years, the years of Sarah's life. Rashi says something interesting. Actually, it's a pretty famous Rashi. When it says, Vaychu Chayei Sarah me'ah shana ve'esrim shana ve'shava shanim, Sarah's lifetime was 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. It says Sarah's lifetime was 100 years, and 20 years, and 7 years. What does Rashi say? This is why the word shana, years, was written at each category after the hundreds, the tens, and the units, to say that each one is expounded on its own, to teach you that when she was 100 years old, she was like 20 years old, and with respect to sin, just as one who is 20 years old is considered as if she had not sinned, for she is not liable to punishment. So too, when Sarah was 100 years old, she was without sin. And when she was 20 years old, she was like 7 years old with regard to her beauty. And Rashi says, Hulan shavin latova. They were all equal for goodness. Now comes along the Ramban, and he actually comments on what Rashi says here. And the Ramban says, he says, why does this is the following quote from Rashi. He quotes Rashi, and he says that he writes the same explanation concerning the similar phrase used in Torah enumerating the years of Abraham's life. He goes on, Ramban objects both of Rashi's interpretation of the Midrash. Now, this isn't actually Rashi's commentary. Rashi is just taking from the Midrash, from Chazal. So does Ramban actually disagree with Chazal? Does he disagree with the Midrash? Not really. Rather, let's see what he says. Ramban says, but Rashi's Midrashic interpretation here is not sound. It's his interpretation of the Midrash. For enumerating the years of Ishmael's life below in Perek 25, verse 17, the same expression is used. When we go to chapter 25, verse 17 of the Parsha here, 25, verse 17, it says about Ishmael's life. These are the years of Ishmael's life, 100 years, and 30 years, and 7 years. Ve'ele shenei chaya Yishmael me'ah shana ushloshim shana ve'shava shanim. Same thing here. So Ramban says this is the same kind of language used with the description of Ishmael's life. So, although in Ishmael's case, the years of his life were not all equal to each other in goodness, for at first he was wicked and he repented, he only did teshuvah at the end of his life. Furthermore, the repetition of the word shana, if anything, implies that the three components of the number should be viewed as distinctly separate entities and should not be expounded in a manner that equates them to one another. Ramban now presents his own opinion. Ramban says, I agree with the Midrash, but Rashi's interpretation of it is wrong. Rather, the repetition of the word shana does not have any linguistic significance here or elsewhere, for this is the normal manner of the Hebrew language. And when the sages said in Bereshis Rabbah, when Sarah was 100 years old, she was like 20 years old with respect to innocence from sin. They did not derive this from the repetition of the word Shana, but from the extraneous expression found at the end of the verse when it says Shenei Chaya Sarah. This is where we actually expound that the years of Sarah's life were good, where the Torah repeats the years of Sarah's life, by which it combines her years into one category and suggests an equivalence between them. And Chazal therefore did not expound in this manner in Abraham's case. So Shana distinguishes between the three. This is just a Hebrew idiom, but Chazal says, the Midrash, that it really has to do with Chaya Sarah, Shenei Chaya Sarah. And this is what Ramban is saying. And so also we see that this is Chaya Sarah, Sarah's lifetime, but she dies. And the sages say that what caused her death, she heard of Yitzhak being offered, and this brought her to death, that she was losing her son. And what's interesting is Vayihu is the numerical value. Vav 6 plus Yud equals 10. 16 plus 5 is 21, plus the Yud plus 10 is 31, plus the Vav is 37. 37 is the age of Yitzhak when he was being offered. And even the Baal Haturim says the years of Sarah's life. The verse does not say Yemei Chaya Sarah, the days of Sarah's life, because in order for her to conceive and bear Yitzhak, she had been rejuvenated and had been returned to the days of her youth. When she became still older, those youthful days ceased. Therefore, the verse states Shenei Chaya Sarah, the years of Sarah's life, which can be understood as the two lives of Sarah. And like I said, I can explain the Vayichu equals 37, represents the primary years of Yitzhak's birth. For she was 90 when he was born, and the total number of her years was 127. So this is just a little interesting insight that I was studying with the Rashi and the Ramban on Chaya Sarah. Baruch Hashem, Shavua Tov, may you all have a good week.